They're pretty common containers on run-of-the-mill rows of shelves, but inside these boxes at Wilson Library is something special: history preserved.
We know it's many millions of items, letters, diaries, recordings, oral history interviews.
With the 150th anniversary of the Civil War now underway, many of these documents, photos, and more are getting a lot of attention.
Many important collections of governors, politicians, Confederate generals, all the way down to enlisted soldiers, both on the Confederate and Union side.
Sometimes the recollections of the rank and file prove most interesting. This letter features much more than ink.
The bullet hole actually appears in two parts of the letter. It actually hit the soldier in his breast pocket, went through the letter, and wounded, possibly killed the soldier. It's hard to know.
A few floors below, Jason Tomberlin also finds himself among long rows of shelves.
Got an excellent collection ranging from colonial North Carolina, 1770s, 1780s, up to modern newspapers coming in every day. What is nice about seeing these originals, it's something that you knew somebody would have held in that time period and kind of held up and read, or maybe read with other individuals in the community.
Soon after North Carolina seceded, the Wilmington Journal changed its front page to reflect the new reality.
Men who before had clung to the hope, however feeble, of being able to preserve or reconstruct the Union were at last forced to confess that they could cling to that hope no longer.
Telling a similar story are the documents Holly Smith's working with, minutes from meetings at Chapel Hill's University Baptist Church.
Particularly interesting to me were the kind of almost offhanded notations about we're praying for our country during this time of strife, the Lord will deliver us, and thinking about how it relates to the Civil War.
Together, the church minutes, newspaper articles, and artifacts housed at Wilson Library tell a story that often gets lost in Civil War history: the impact the conflict had on everyday people.
Really kind of that sense of how national events and the battles and the things that we all learn about in school are affecting day-to-day life.
It was just a period of great uncertainty and loss and confusion and trying to make sense of it all.
It shows up in places like this ad from the Wilmington Journal, placed by a Confederate soldier wanting to buy or rent a slave to help his family while he goes off to war.
You're seeing both the effect of the war and slavery in the society as well, all within one 3 or 4 line advertisement.
The end of slavery is reflected in the minutes from University Baptist Church.
The colored members were granted leave to withdraw from the white church and to be organized into a church to themselves.
To Biff Hollingsworth, it's the letters from the battlefield that create the most powerful connections.
The letter is from Albert Pano's wife to her husband on the battlefield, and talks about how she can't sleep and she just can't stop thinking about that something bad might happen to him.
The letter was written on July 18th.
3 days later, after he had received it, he is actually struck on the battlefield, wounded in the leg. He became a prisoner of war in Richmond, and he actually died in prison a month later. It's a very sad story.
The kind that gets lost as years pass through decades and into centuries.
We do know about the great battles. We know the numbers of people that were killed, but we really don't know the personal experiences of all these soldiers.
To help keep the war fresh a century and a half later, the historians and archivists have taken to technology. They're doing a blog, The Civil War Day by Day.
A posting will go up every day, and the posting will match with what happened 150 years ago that day.
And it will continue for the next 4 years, through 2015.
It's not a struggle for us to find something for each day. It's a struggle for us to find something that's interesting for people.
All of the featured items, things like this photo from Fort Sumter, one of the first images of the Civil War, are housed in Wilson Library, and they're all available for the public to see.
We give description of the item, information on how to find and access that item.
It's all in the spirit of building interest in one of the most critical periods of American history, a century and a half after the first shots were fired.
We see this as a great way for people to get kind of a snippet from some of these collections and for them to kind of have their appetite whetted. We see it as the tip of the iceberg.